Hello everyone, we are going to do a simple non-metallics video here today, and it's simple to complex, and then you can go as complex as you like it, but we're going to give you the simple things to start off with. So going through the metals, gold, probably the hardest one and the biggest one that you'll ask me about. This is to make sure that you've got the right paints to do the job. So you want to start off with a lovely dark brown. So with Reaper it would be ebony flesh, with Citadel it would be Rhinox hide. So I've got a range of paints here so that to help you guys find the right paints for you based on what you might already own. But feel free to use your imagination and look at the colours on the screen. If you find a paint that matches that colour in your collection, then go for it, use that. You'll be absolutely fine. So chocolate brown. I don't have many really dark browns for Vallejo, so I can't comment on the rest of them. But the next step, very simply, if you do have the Reaper triad, which is non-metallic gold shadow, gold base, and gold highlight, perfect. You're all set to go with that. But for those that don't, Flat Earth, a lovely model colour paint. Ruddy Flesh, a lovely Reaper paint. And XV88. This is a really nice Citadel base. Controversial, but really nice Citadel base colour that dries looking just like Flat Earth. So while the colours might not match on the bottle, when this sets, it will look just like this, which is really good. So there's that. And then the next one obviously is your gold base tone, which could be amber gold, it could be Zamisi Desert or Balor Brown if you've got either of those for Citadel, or it could be Japanese uniform. Anything along those lines is absolutely fine. And then your gold highlights, which is gold highlight from Reaper or pale yellow. I don't have an alternative for that from Citadel and such, but if you do find anything, or if you don't have, let's say you want to cut your budget in half, let's say you don't have the highlights and you don't have the light browns, what you can do is you can add model color ivory to any of these to make the next tone up, and then you can add model color ivory to any of these to get the next tone up. And so that might save some of you some money if you get your hands on this, because it's a really nice off-white. And then once you've done that, what you want to do is get one of these lovely orangey brown paints to use as a wash. So you water it down. This is Doomball Brown and Mournfang Brown. Both really nice colours. And then you edge it with some ivory, and the end result is this. See this gold chain that goes around this demon? This is in the process of being painted at the moment. But this gold chain here is done with that paint sequence. So this will help you be able to do that, and we're going to do a video afterwards as well of me doing that, so you guys can see how exactly it is done. So that's your gold. Your next one is your copper. So we've got again the Reaper triad, which is tarnished copper, new copper, and copper verdigris. This is really nice, and if you've got similar colours to this in Citadel, much like the Ruddy Brown or the Mournfang Brown, then you can use this instead of this. And if you've got any nice skin tones, you can use them instead of this. You'll want to be mixing the two, okay? You don't. It's not so much you put one on and then the other. You sort of want to wet blend them, and that's what we're going to show you today. If you haven't got copper verdigris, not to worry. You can use any sort of like turquoisey colour. So jade green, turquoise, marine, teal, and also blue-green. Now, as you can see, there's a bit of difference in these blues, but they'll all look absolutely fine. They'll all do the job great, and if you want, you can add ivory to any of them afterwards, or go for any sort of lighter toned colours for the edging on that. And what that will do is it will create something like this. So we see you got this lovely old rusted copper backpack here. This is another example of the gold down here on these two containers, and you got a bit of the verdigris at the top there. So this starts off quite bright, and then we wash it over with some Stegadon scale green, and then we highlight and do edges. And you can add all these other little colours into it, you know, and we'll cover that in a second. But that's the sort of end result of that. You see, this is also like a bit of tarnished copper work here, and we've what here we've got on this weapon is the steel. So that is, so if you want to do non-metallic steel, that is Stegadon scale green or Nightshade purple from Reaper, and you add, you guessed it, ivory to any one of these, or you can mix them, whatever you want. This is essentially what you're going for. So your wet palette should look something like this. So for your steel and your gold, so we've got the dark, really dark brown, we've got a nice base shadow, the base and the highlight, and then we've got the orangey brown wash, which will really bring it all together. And then for your steel, you've got your Stegadon scale green and your Nightshade purple, and the ivory is going to get mixed with everything, so I'm going to end up adding more ivory as we go along. But that is it to begin with, guys. I'll add the copper to that palette, and then here comes a video of the painting. Enjoy! So here we are starting the model. I've got my Element Games Regiment brush. It's a bit of a janky old brush, but it has an amazing tip on it. It's just one of the hairs keeps flying out, which I'm sure will aggravate you all in this video. Putting down the darkest of browns first. This is what we're going to build upon. So I'm just making sure all the area is covered in lovely brown. It's an amazing base colour. It sort of helps all the other colours fall into line that go on top of it, because it has a bit of an influence on every bit of paint that goes on top of it. So first the brown. I tend to start with browns for everything. I just like the earthy finish it helps me achieve. So sometimes I'll do that for the steels as well, and I use it for the copper, but this is for the gold handle. So we're pushing the brown on it, and then we're starting to do the gold shadow, and then we'll move up to the other gold highlights. So what we're doing here is we're pushing the colour out more, leaving nice bits of dark around all that. And you can, you know, make this as complex or simple as you like. Wet blending this all in. So we've worked from darker browns to the lighter yellows until we've created our little sort of highlight effect. Bring that in down there to bring the whole piece in. Do a few little bubbles of line there. So we'll let the gold set. We'll start to work on the steel. Steel, you want a nice bit of water on your brush. Get the blue. Douse it all over this here. On the front and on the back. The back and the bottom will be darker than the top, obviously, so just to keep that in mind. Grab your ivory. Pick your highest points. And we like to do a bit of a messy paint style. It doesn't have to be perfect. That sort of bit there. Then maybe mix that in there. Then let this sort of calm down a little bit down here. Mix the blue in with the ivory to get what we want. This is, for me, quite perfect. And this, for me, is quite good as well. What I'd probably do is leave another little bounce of light here in the middle of the blade. So that overall, this is lighter than the underneath. We'll see how those are when they dark. We'll come back to them. The gold has dried now. So we'll grab some of that Mornfang brown. Add a bit of water to it. Wash that over. You guys can see that. And then we'll let that dry before we do the ivory on that. While this is all going on, what I think we'll do is we could do some of the steel in this backpack here. So we'll get the Nightshade purple. Plop that on. We could do this copper. But what I'll do is I'll do this bit copper. And I'll do the main attachment nightshade purple. So we'll have a bit of a copper pipe coming out of there as well. Okay. So then we get the ivory. Spread the ivory over. Lightest bits are the first bits we touch, and then as the ivory on the brush gets a bit more contaminated, we then drag that down. The rest of it, colour the rest in. And as I said, you can make this as complex or as simple as you want, so we'll add some browns afterwards and do some edging and all that sort of stuff. This here is starting to look like it's nearly ready for the next bit, but not quite there yet. So what we're going to do, we're going to get our copper colours, tarnished copper and the new copper, give them a quick shake. Oh no, we have added them on, that's all good. We're going to start with nice dark brown where the copper's going. And you can turn this into an energy pack thing if you like. All depends on whatever you fancy. And as you can see, I'm carefully balancing my finger on places that haven't been painted occasionally. And start to throw in that lovely tarnished copper colour. Wet blending everything. Leaving dark in places. So you got your darks, your mediums and your lights. Then get the new copper. Start to drag that into a few areas. A few areas around the top. A bit more visible. So this is where we make the choice really, you know, like how light is this going to be? And as we're putting this in, it looks like the top's going to be pretty light, doesn't it? And you know, you could leave these steps here if you like, if you're happy with how things turn out. But I like to start to add a bit more flavour and a bit more colour to these things as I go through. So, you know, things you can do is you can go back and add a bit more of this brown, or add a bit more of that brown. So we'll add a bit more, sort of, as we've gone so light with it, I will add a bit more sort of tarnished copper in places. Just to give it a bit more life, a bit more zest. That's quite watery, so see how that is when that dries. And this is ready now. So and the blade is ready as well. So you get the ivory. You want quite a dry brush for this. Get the ivory on the tip of your brush. This lovely Element Games brush here. Get that off, and you just want to run it around the edge. So you get the sharp finish that you're happy with. So I'm catching all those lines with the edge of my brush. I'll do it a bit here as well. A bit of that going down there. And catch the rivets around here. On the back. And then from this point on, if you like it or don't like it, you can go back forth and add more dark blue, or you know, create the sort of mid-tones that you're after. Let me just double check this. So it looks like the line is around here. Yeah, there it is. So we just have to try and find that line. And then we can neaten that up afterwards by going back in with the Stegadon scale green. Just using the edge of the brush to bring that all in a little bit. And same here on the top. What you can do also, get a bit more ivory now, and start to again using the side of your brush to sort of merge a bit of a shine into it there, like that. And like we did here earlier, we created a lighter bump, so we'll merge a bit of a shine in there. We've got that lovely area here, where it wouldn't feel right without a bit of a shine here as well. So what we've got here is a lovely sort of dark to light to dark to light, and you sort of want to bounce it around a little bit, because depending on how weather beaten and used this sword is, or how polished it is, will define the end result. We've got something like that there. We can now be a bit more adventurous with the gold. We can bring in something like Xandri dust. And you don't have to use creams. You can mix ivory with the non-metallic gold shadow or flat earth or whatever it was you were using. But just sort of keep things a bit more in line with each other. Add a bit of cream, and catch a few of the bumps with this cream. So we've got now we've got a fancy sword like this. Catch the edge of that there. Catching the edge makes it look like metal. Sometimes I leave the rivets dark, depending on how sort of rusted and used I want it to look. And sometimes I spend a bit of time sort of merging this sort of blue here, because maybe I don't want that black there so much, Maybe I feel better with it more like that. I feel like that suits it a bit better. I don't mind the darkness there. I think that suits it. So you've got light, dark, light, a nice medium tone, and light at the top there. And then for here at the bottom, try and correct all this. I mean, this looks good as it is. I think it needs more dark though, so we'll try that. Try adding more dark. So we've got we'll bring the dark out more. There's a bit less, so there's a bit less light there. I mean, that to me looks quite realistic. I'm quite happy with that. And then with the purple nightshade, again, you want to add some ivory to it. Get the ivory around all the edging. Sort of get the light and dark tones how you want them, and then you sort of want to think about everything else. So we get the extremes in, get the edging in, and then we might think, oh well, it'd be nice if there was a bit of brown in there, so add a bit of brown to it, wash a bit of brown over it. Make it look a bit more used. Maybe we want a darker brown in there as well with a bit of blue on it, so I'll add a bit of blue to that as well. And from the take it on scale green. So this is going into more like advanced. And then maybe I'll want to add a bit of cream in there. So we got the Xandri dust from earlier. I'll just splurge that over there, make it look a bit more like this has been through something. We sort of want to create a sort of halo effect light ray going around this. So there'll be light going across the top here, and light going across the top there. So keep adding ivory to the whole procedure. I mean, how much ivory you add defines sort of like how shiny this piece of steel is. As you can see, we've got a nice little painterly effect going there. I just want to blend it in a little bit, just to have a bit of an idea of where we're at, and then I might darken down again. So as you can see here, we've gone too light towards the front. They're not necessarily bad, but we do have to have it sort of make sense. So what I'm going to do now, go get some purple nightshade, mix it with some brown, and try and wet blend that over it at the front there, and it creates this lovely sort of, I don't know, tin bits sort of colour there, and try and wash it a bit over with water to get a few shadows around some of the rivets and such. But it's all experimental. It's every piece is its own new dilemma. I never go into these knowing what I'm doing. So we're looking at it now, we're balancing it out a bit. We're going, yeah, actually this needs to be a bit lighter coming around the back here. So that's what we've got there. We're going, yeah, this needs to be a bit lighter coming down here. So that's where we've got that there. And I feel now that that looks like a really good steel. So now we're going to move on to the copper. Now, we put the new copper and old copper on there. And now we want some really watery Stegodon scale green. Wash it over that. And we'll get ready to edge that when that is done. The other thing that I didn't really talk about was bronze. So I do these guys' helmets bronze. I pick the darkest brown. Oh, so daft of me to forget the bronze. Place that over there. You don't really want to move up too much from this brown, to be honest. And that in itself is the sort of key with bronze. So what we'll do is we'll add a bit of Xandri dust to the edging of that. We can add a little bit in places while it's drying. Wet blend to make these bits stand out a bit more. So that's looking pretty fruity for a bronze. It'll pop even more once we've got the ivory on there. This here we'll do as a Stegodon scale green steel. Like a fresh filter, if you will. If you imagine this as like a breather. I don't know if it is a breather for them. I don't tend to really know the ins and outs of their gear completely. And we'll also work on this pistol as well. And I think for the pistol, I'd rather it was a copper pistol with a gold handle. So we'll do it as one of those, well, like a brass handle actually. We'll go very tarnished gold / brass with the handle. So there's that there. And if you've ever seen sort of old English stoves and fireplaces, you'll get the idea of the sort of colours I'm going for with this. We'll get the tarnished copper. Pop that in. Side of the brush for everything. We'll get the new copper. Pop that over the top and drag it into the colours here. Use bits of the brush that aren't contaminated when you want a fresh pop of colour, and then use bits of the brush that are contaminated when you don't want it to pop so much. So we've got that there like that. And really, with a thing like this thing, we can, with this gun, we can add ivory straight over this. Wet blend ivory straight in. And you can see we're creating areas of lights and darks for all of it that work for us. So here we go, we've got a lovely thing like that. I mean, we can add some yellows to it as well if we feel that lacking a bit of yellow. Sometimes when you get copper newly done in the factory, there's a bit of a yellowish sort of tint to it, and I think that's quite nice. And then we've got to do the gold gun, the gold handle. So I mean, like, all of this will be gold. I think I'll do that last bit copper as well, but let's get this done first. What is this, the flintlock or something like that? It's the mechanism that cracks. I don't know, you guys tell me. Then we'll do the non-metallic gold shadow again. Drag it over wherever your lighting would fit. So we're just thinking about lighting here. How dark is something? How light is something? Not making fancy patterns or strafes across the non-metallics. It's just, this is simple to be done for a sort of high-level tabletop standard. Something that you can do in a few seconds that I think has a very pleasing effect. And then got the gold base coming on now, so this is going to have to be quite thick with this. It's going to have a bit of an impact. So, you know, you might think, why don't we separate the colours a little bit more to have less paint on the model, and just put the yellows where the yellows would go, the browns where the browns would go, etc, etc. But that's not quite how I like to work. I like to push colours out of places with the other colours to help, because it helps blend everything together. Helps reduce the steps in difference in colour between everything. And I just love the end effect so much. You know, this whole painterly sort of non-metallics just pleases me. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. Finding a way of painting that you are happy with, that you enjoy the look of. And this also helps me sort of define how light something is going to be as I'm going along, rather than knowing it at the beginning. So I can look at bits and go, yeah, this needs more highlighting, and grab it there and then while it's all still wet. So then we go back to that with the Mornfang brown wash. Wash that over. I think we'll wash the copper a bit with this as well, which will help bring it all in together. Make sure the brush is really wet, and make sure it's picking up watery Mornfang brown. So we're not doing the blue Stegodon scale wash on the barrel for this. This is like a really high polished copper, this gun. And we'll do a copper or a gold handle. Do a gold handle. I think it makes sense to keep it gold, doesn't it? Alright, so gold base there. And highlights. So it's like how you'd sort of do gemstones a bit. You sort of want all the colours quite close to each other. And then obviously I'll leave that to dry for a second, and then we'll do the Mournfang brown over that. So you see, this is all coming together really nicely. We've got a nice sort of steel, sort of a kettle or a teapot sort of grey steel, and then we've got these lovely coppers next to it. I've added a bit of ivory to the Stegodon scale green now. I'm just whipping over this with the side of my brush, and then when that's dry, I'll go over with a bit more ivory added to it. The sword here at the back is pretty dark, so I'll just add a teensy bit of colour to that. I do like it dark, but I think for it to make sense, it's got to have a little bit more colour. Then we'll add some heat ivory to that. And again, a bit more ivory added to it here. When I'm going over all this stuff, the drier the brush the better, because it doesn't fill all the holes. Sadly, I've been using quite a wet brush with this bit, so I've got to wash those holes back in with some Nightshade Purple. Take off the excess with your brush, because you don't want to leave too much wash over anything. And then again, wash the Mournfang brown over this lovely handle we've just done. The bronze has dried, so let's put the ivory on there in places and see what the levels are looking like, and then we'll decide what we need to do. What I think we're going to do here is bring up the tone of the brown a little bit, make it look a little bit warmer. So but that is a very nice bronze as it is. But I just want a bit more colour in there, so these are the sort of things that I'm thinking about when I'm doing this sort of painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some Mournfang brown, the ebony flesh that we had earlier, and I'm going to place that in the areas that are a bit more visible. Like that. So that should do that nicely. I think that's starting to look quite good now. I'll add a bit of Zamisi Desert to this. Just here. Just not too much light, because that'll ruin the sort of effect of the whole bronze thing. So that still looks nice and dark. We can now do the ivory on the gun. The gold bits, make it shine a little bit more. You know, we sort of scratch the colour on. And there we go. We can put a bit of other here as well. You know, really sort of gently. bringing a bit more light into that. And you could just keep going back and forth over this sort of thing, like adding colour, taking it away, adding colour, taking it away, until you get the desired effect that you want with these pieces. Here we got too much of the mid-tone for a shiny spandangly gold. I'm adding a bit more of the yellow back in. And then I've got to wash the Mornfang brown back over it. Make it that really sort of goldy gold. So I'll let that set. And while that's set, we can look at things like the copper here. So at the moment, this is a really nice sort of rusted copper. And what I'm going to do, add a few dashes of the verdigris. And hopefully that is that. Hopefully you guys get the idea of that all. There's other things that I could probably do. Like I'd probably go back and add a bit more yellowy gold to this bit down here. Keep the sort of light going in a diagonal reflection. Make this look a bit more polished now that I look at the whole piece. I'll probably wash that over again. Very thinly. But yeah, that's how I do it, guys. And if you don't like what you do, just tap it with your finger, and it takes the paint off with no issue straight away. But hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea for non-metallics. I'll show the finished piece at the end of the video, and you guys can have a look then and see what you think of it all. Alright, thank you ever so much, everyone. Enjoy!